How do you apply for a U.S. tourist visa, also known as a B2 or sometimes a B1, B2 visitor visa? I'm immigration lawyer John Kasra. I help people get green cards, particularly married couples, but we also advise on tourist visas itself. So the first thing I have to say when it comes to tourist visas is that no one can apply for you. If you have a relative or a friend in the U.S., they do not apply for your tourist visa. You individually, each person, if you're a family of four with kids, each individual has to apply for their own tourist visa. So it's very important to know that. And how do you start the process? Well, first and foremost, you need to make sure you don't have any inadmissibility issues. These are things that could prevent you from entering the United States. For example, you've overstayed previously, you have certain criminal history. That's going to lead to automatic denial, so it's not even worth pursuing it. It's best to consult with an attorney to see if any of those apply to you. But second of all, you go in, you file form DS-160, DS-160. If you put it into Google, the form should come up from the Department of State's website, known as CEAC. But once you go there, you just have to fill it out properly. And this is another problem that happens is people have their friends, family, their travel agent fill out this DS-160 form. It's very biographic and personal. You have to complete yourself. It's in English, but translations are available on the site as well. But you have to complete it to make sure all the information is correct. Because now with this application, you're going on record, and any future U.S. applications that come up, they're going to look at this. And if there's inconsistencies, it becomes a big problem. And that's one of the reasons why we help people on tourist visas, primarily to avoid them saying something, or you're not even lying per se, but making something bigger than it is or smaller than it is when it doesn't need to be. Just straight up tell them the truth. That's the only way really to go about these kind of cases. But once you fill out the form DS-160, you complete all this stuff there. You have to see the particular embassy you're working with or U.S. consulate, what their procedure is for scheduling an interview. Most of the time, you have to register with a particular website that will be listed on U.S. Embassy's website or the consulate's website to be able to register with your email and a password. Once you get in, you pay a fee and a calendar opens up that you would then schedule a time. So it's really filling out the form DS-160, then registering the appointment and going to their calendar to access it. Now, payment methods are different. Some countries and the consulates will accept, credit cards. Some require you to go to a passport, to a bank in that country and get a receipt that has a code on it to be able to pay it. It's all over the place. Some let you schedule the appointment, not lock it in until you pay. So I used to see the calendar first. Each consul will do it differently, unfortunately, so it's inconsistent. But those are the main things you need. Again, a DS-160 and register appointment. Eventually, you're going to have an embassy or consulate interview. You go there in person. You want to bring your basic documents, for example, your passport is really the most important one. That should have at least 1 year, if not more, time on it. You don't want to get caught with a passport expiring soon. And depending on your case, you might need to bring additional documentation. The number one thing they're really concerned about in your tourist visa interview is if you're going to go back home after your visit to the United States. That's the one 99% of cases get denied for, one reason. So what are the ways to show that? Well, if you have family you're leaving behind, if you have work you're leaving behind, if it shows that you're only coming for temporary purposes, it's very obvious. These are really important. Now, what you have to understand is it's completely 100% up to the discretion of the consular officer that's interviewing you. If they just don't want to issue a tourist visa, there's no fighting with them. There's no appeal. There's not really complaining to a congressperson unless it's extremely egregious kind of stuff that's just maybe, it's out of control, that they said. Even then, it's not anything you can do if they're not approving the case. And sometimes go to the interview, they deny you right there, 214B. They have immigrant intent. That's the worry that you're going to come and immigrate to the United States and not go back. Sometimes your case may have other issues, but they still deny you for that reason because, frankly, it's less paperwork for them to deny you for 214B immigrant intent than to go through the hassle of explaining and going through everything of why the other inadmissibility reason for denial is. It could be, again, your criminal history. You might have overstayed a visa, violated something, or have certain criminal terrorist activity, things that pop in the computer that they just don't want to share with you, and they'll deny for that reason. Now, you turn around immediately next day, apply for a new visa, but every time you do, the chances of success gets lower and lower. It's not impossible. I see it happen, but that could be something that pops up that you do it again and works, but most of the time it doesn't because the next consular officer is going to look at it and say, oh, you've already been denied once, I'm probably going to deny you again. One thing that pops up is if you have a green card case pending already, it's very important that you list it. There's a question that asks, do you have any in the DS-160 form? If you have any petitions pending for you, submitted for you, you have to answer honestly, and that could lead to a denial because they'll know you have, a work or home or family in the U.S. More likely you're going to stay here. But if you don't tell them, it's going to be a problem later for your visa or green card case that's going to pop up because you are not honest here. That's the number one thing. Secondly, there's a question that asks, do you have any family members in the U.S.? You have to completely answer that to avoid, again, misrepresentation or fraud, because those could be serious issues for your future visas and green cards. So you just want to be honest, even if it's going to get denied, because you want to avoid, getting the misrepresentation or fraud claim, because that comes very hard to overcome. So that's the synopsis of tourist visa. You apply, DS-160, a registered appointment, go do an interview. Interview might get a decision right then. Some cases you fall into what's called administrative processing. Could take 1 week, 1 month, 2 years to get a decision. Unfortunately, is very obnoxious. And all the other non-immigrant temporary visa categories are similar, student visas and the like. The basics of scheduling interview is the same. All the other ones have certain extras. A student visa may require what's called a DS-20. I'm sorry, J1 is DS-216. That's there. An I-20 may require for F1 student visa. H-1Bs, O-1s needed approval notices for those categories. So they vary, but the basic essence out of those two forms, you do your interview and you hope for the best. I hope the information helped. I'm immigration lawyer John Kasra. If you want to schedule a consultation with our office, go to jqqlaw.com/contact. Again, that's jqqlaw.com/contact.